This tree is a symbol of the spirit of the Griswold family Christmas.
I mean, come on, really. Is there a better scene in a Christmas movie than that? Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of Fun Facts with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig. What makes this episode so special? Well, number one, this is going to be the first episode of Fun Facts with Craig. And as much as I love useless information, I figured it would be best if I passed that down to y'all. And number two, today we're going to be talking about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Now, with Christmas vastly approaching, we already know we're going to be seeing references to Christmas Vacation everywhere. So I just wanted to dive in a little bit deeper and talk about some of the lesser known facts of this Christmas classic. So if you enjoy, please don't forget, like and subscribe. Merry Christmas, and let's jump right into it. And starting off our list at number one, Christmas Vacation has ties to It's a Wonderful Life. Now, I'm sure we all remember the scene where Rusty's sitting on the couch watching It's a Wonderful Life right before Clark and Ellen's parents show up. Now, one thing a lot of people probably aren't aware of is It's a Wonderful Life was directed by Frank Capra. Now, Frank Capra III, which is actually the grandson of Frank Capra, is actually acting as the assistant director for Christmas Vacation. So that scene is actually a nod to the Capras. Number two, Leonardo DiCaprio almost played the role of Rusty. Now, it's hard to imagine a world where a 12-year-old Dr. Leonard from Big Bang Theory did not play Rusty, but according to sources on the internet, that was almost the case. Now, according to CinemaBlend.com, Leonardo DiCaprio was actually in the running to land that role. But it seems as though the casting director ended up preferring Glei because she didn't believe DiCaprio was quote-unquote goofy enough. Number three, Chevy Chase hurt himself while filming the movie. Now, we're all very aware of the scene where Clark Griswold attacks his front yard Christmas decorations because he can't get his lights on the house working. Now, one thing a lot of people aren't aware of, though, is while landing those jabs and hooks on Old Jolly St. Nick, Chevy Chase actually broke his pinky. And that's why he reverts to going Bruce Lee style on the remaining reindeer. Number four, Clark Griswold grew up in the house from Bewitched. In the classic scene where Clark gets stuck up in the attic while the rest of the family goes shopping, we all remember he starts digging through the reels of his childhood Christmases. While he's watching those reels, if the house in the background looks familiar, it should. That was actually the main house in the popular TV show Bewitched. Funny thing is, that's not a house at all. That's actually just a piece of the Warner Brothers backlot. And if the house of the snooty neighbors Margot and Todd looks familiar at all, that's because that's the house of Roger Murtaugh and family from the Lethal Weapon series. Number five, Christmas Vacation went straight to video in England. The disrespect. Yeah. Although this is an incredibly popular Christmas movie in the UK as well, this never saw the light of the cinemas. Number six, there is a direct sequel. This one was surprising to me as well. In 2003, we actually got a direct sequel, A Christmas Vacation 2. Now, don't feel bad if you weren't aware of this. This was actually a made-for-TV movie, and very few of the original actors reprised their roles for this movie. The only people that we would be able to pick out is Cousin Eddie, as Randy Quaid did come back to play that role, Miriam Flynn, who has actually played Cousin Eddie's wife, Catherine, in a few of the Vacation movies, and Dana Barron, which is the original Audrey, not the Audrey that we had in Christmas Vacation, which was Juliette Lewis. But I wouldn't be in a rush to go try to hunt down the sequel and watch it. It currently only holds a 12% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Number seven, the original director quit. Now, for everybody watching that may not have been aware previously, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but Chevy Chase is a little bit of an asshole. He's been known to throw tirades and act like a diva on pretty much every set he's ever worked on. He created major issues while working on Saturday Night Live, as well as recently working on the set of Community. Now, unfortunately, Christmas Vacation's original director, Chris Columbus, dropped off the movie before it even started filming. I guess he already knew he wasn't going to be dealing with Mr. Chase for a whole film. But don't feel too bad. John Hughes, which is the writer of Christmas Vacation, perhaps feeling bad after subjecting Mr. Columbus to Chevy Chase, actually offered him a choice of other scripts that he could work on. So the director, seemingly still in the Christmas mood, chose another classic to work on, Home Alone. Number eight. The new director was making his film debut. So once the original director dropped off of Christmas Vacation, John Hughes desperately needed to find somebody to take over the role. And he brought in director Jeremiah Chechik. Now before this time, Chechik only had experience directing music videos, so this was a new world for him. And on top of all that, he hadn't seen either of the two previous Vacation movies. Number 9. Roger Ebert did not love the film. Yeah, and this one came as a very big surprise to me. Upon its release, Roger Ebert, which if you didn't already know, is probably the biggest name in movie critics ever, did not like the film. And he would go on to say, "You have the odd sensation watching the movie that it's straining to get off the ground, but simply doesn't have the juice." But that only backs up what I've always thought anyway. It's always good to see what the critics have to say, but don't let that be the deciding factor on whether you watch something or not. Number 10. Cousin Eddie is based on a real person. You know, personally, I wasn't necessarily surprised by this. I think we all know somebody that falls into the realm of Cousin Eddie. Whether it be the fact that they live in an RV, start drinking beer as soon as they wake up, live in a robe, guilty, or just show up to people's houses unannounced. I think we all have an Eddie in our life, whether it's our cousin or not.
Dinner was full!
Number 11. There was an earthquake while filming the movie. Now, I found this one rather surprising. Specifically because the scene in which the earthquake hit, they kept that take. Now, while they were filming the scene in which Uncle Lewis and Aunt Bethany come up to the house for Christmas, as they are walking through the front door, an earthquake actually hit the set. It's hard to see, as I've been trying to look myself, but if you look very closely, you can see the camera start to shake as they enter the interior of the house. This also goes to debunk the fact that a lot of people, including myself, always assume that the movie was filmed in Chicago. That's actually not the case. While mainly exterior shots were filmed in Chicago, a lot of the other scenes were filmed in Colorado and California. Number 12. It was the final movie of Mae Questell. Now, upon making this list, I was very surprised to find out the things that I did about the actress that played Aunt Bethany. Did you know that she was the voice of Betty Boop, as well as Olive Oil from the Popeye cartoons? Crazy. Number 13. Johnny Galecki regrettably got a big scene cut from the movie. Now, for anybody that's watching this that saw the original first two vacation movies, being National Lampoon's Vacation and National Lampoon's European Vacation, you may remember a scene in both of those movies where Clark and Rusty had a deep man-to-man / father-to-son chat. Now, in both of those first two movies, that was supposed to be quite a pivotal scene. Unfortunately, it didn't really have the effect that the directors and the writers were hoping. So when the time came around for them to write Christmas Vacation, they just left it out. Now, when the time came to film the movie, though, Chevy Chase had different feelings towards the subject. He was actively trying to get the father-son conversation put into the movie. Unfortunately, Johnny Galecki, who plays Rusty, was against the idea. He believed that during editing, it was just going to get cut from the movie anyway, so he voted against it. And then the whole studio decided not to do that scene. Now, unfortunately, to this day, Johnny Galecki will still go on record talking about how much he regrets that decision. I mean, just imagine for a second, as big as Christmas Vacation became, if they would have been able to implement a father-son Christmas time chat into that movie, that scene alone might have become pretty historical. But unfortunately, that's just going to be something for us to wonder. Number 14. The director makes a cameo in the movie. Now, in one of the absolute best scenes in that movie, where Clark and Ellen are laying in bed discussing the family coming over for Christmas, you'll remember Clark is reading a People magazine. Now, if you zoom in, you'll see that there's a man standing on the cover of that People magazine. Do you know who that is? No other than Jeremiah Chechik himself, the director. And last but absolutely not least, number 15. To help Chevy Chase nail the meltdown scene, his fellow actors wore cue cards. Now, in one of the best scenes in Christmas movie history, Clark finally explodes and goes on a tirade. In writing this part of the movie, the studio already knew that they wanted this to be one of the main focal points of the movie. And with that being said, they wanted a long shot on Chevy himself. Now, to help make this successful, each of his fellow actors in the scene actually wore cue cards around their necks, as Chevy Chase had quite a chunk of dialogue in this section, and they wanted to make sure he was able to get through it in one take without having to cut. And I will say, I think they were pretty successful. I think the fact that he was actually out of breath when he said,
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
is what makes it so funny. But Beverly D'Angelo, as we all know, played Ellen, had actually said in an interview, if you watch really closely during that scene, you can watch Chevy Chase's head go from each actress to actor as he's going through that dialogue, as he's actually reading the cue cards that are sitting on their chest. So the next time you watch the movie, give it a second look. See if you can notice it. And that's going to conclude our list today of 15 fun facts of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you've made it this far, you should probably go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, you're already here. All jokes aside, I just wanted to wish all of my viewers out there a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you get to spend the time with the people that you love, the people that you care about, family, friends, anybody. At the end of the day, I just hope that everybody's happy out there. So as always, and until next time, peace.